Hey everyone, welcome to the Higher Alignment Podcast. I'm your host, Minh-Thu, and I'm an executive coach focused on helping people heal their burnout and reconnect to their purpose through self-mastery. I show executives and high performers how to identify their blind spots and use this to propel them on their journey to finding more fulfillment and freedom without burning out. If you've been feeling lost and disconnected in life, book a complimentary connection call to discuss how we can get you back on the path of self-mastery and living a life that feels successful on your terms. Go to higheralignmentconsulting.com/program to book your call, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, guys, I'm going to be real with you. The last few days have been rough. Okay. And the reason I want to lead with that is because, I am obviously always talking about how to manage your stress and process your stress better. And yes, it is very important, but that doesn't mean you are exempt from having days like this. And that's why I want to be vulnerable and tell you guys that I talk about this stuff. I have the tools, I have the discipline to know what it takes to again manage my stress better. But sometimes life just lifes and this happens. And I'm always very honest with my clients and my audience about the fact that, you know, my content, my program is not here to take stress away from you. It's not here to make it so you never get triggered ever again. That is not realistic. It's here to close the window to which things affect you and to the degree to which you hold stress in your body, right? So something that would maybe spin you out for a couple days and you'd overthink it for a couple days, well, maybe that ends up only being an hour or a half an hour. You know what I mean? Like think about how much mental, emotional, and physical energy you would save if things didn't eat away at you for that long. And that's the point of my work. And that's what I've structured my program around, is to help people do that. Okay. But again, that's not to say that my life doesn't get messy sometimes. And I'll be honest, it's been messy for me the past couple of days, and not because anything is going wrong. Honestly, I'm really blessed to say that, I'm healthy. I'm in the best relationship I've ever been in. My family's good. My friends are good. My business is good. Things are good, but shit, sometimes you just don't feel it. Okay. And for me, the past couple days, my hormones have been up and down. My cycle is off, which is why my hormones are up and down, which leads me, my ladies know, to me not having the best sleeps, being really emotional. I've cried so many times the past few days. My poor boyfriend. Just these things. My diet's been off, and I have an incredible amount of tools that I've implemented. And sometimes you just, it just is what it is. And I wanted to be real today about that, because that's leading me to the topic of this podcast, which is about capacity and what that means and how it's going to change your life and help you get closer to the life you really want to live. And even that alone, guys, it's Wednesday. I'm recording this episode, and I release on Thursdays. So this is getting a release tomorrow. I usually have this recorded, edited, and loaded, locked and ready to go by Tuesday. I haven't even recorded for this week. Okay. So this just kind of shows you where my life has been. But hey, we're not going for perfection. We're going for progress. And here I am, leveling with you guys and being honest and real about it. Okay. So that brings me to my topic today of capacity and what that means. And I know I use that word quite a bit in my content, but I also know people don't maybe know exactly what that means. And so that's what I wanted to elaborate on for you today. And then I wanted to give you an exercise on how to expand that. So capacity is the degree to which we can handle things, right? And so if we're thinking on a very simple example, if you look at milk cartons, there's 500 milliliters, there's a liter, there's 2 liters, right? And that is the capacity of the jug. So obviously that's how much milk it can hold. And we have that same thing within us as far as our stress and our energy within our body. And each one of us has a different capacity based on our nervous system and based on the experiences we've had in our life. And that's starting from a child. Okay, all the way from when you first entered the world. I mean, even before that, your mother's how your mother's carrying you can also affect your capacity. But every experience we have as a living human affects our capacity to some degree. Okay, so what that means, though, is we can have experiences that either reinforce the capacity we already have, so keep it as one level, or we can have experiences that expand our capacity. Okay. And that's growth, right? It's as simple as that. But the level of your capacity literally dictates the quality of your life in regards to what type of life you want. Okay. And so, for instance, I'll use this example. I have a client right now who has 5 children. Okay, he has 5 children, and he is the owner president of a large engineering firm. Okay, so he's done very well for himself. Such a nice man, and he's married as well too. And I remember on the first or second session we had, I told him, I said, here, look, here is the plan and the strategy. You are not failing. Because that's what he came to me for, right? Like he was burnt out, he was exhausted, he's got so many things on his plate, and you know, feels like he's drowning type thing. I said, you are not failing at anything. I said, but what we need to do is we need to expand your capacity for what is on your plate. So you don't have to give anything up. You don't have to, you don't have to like nothing's wrong with your situation in your life per se and all the things that have demands on you. But we need to expand your capacity so that you can show up the way you want to show up, which is of course in his best form in all those hats, like as a husband, as a father, as a leader, you know what I mean? We need to expand your capacity so that you can do that and it's not taking a toll on your mind, body, and heart, you know? And I said, so that's what we're going to work on. I said, and for the record, like I'm an expert at this. I do this all day. I help people. Of course, there's always room for me to grow, but like I help people and walk through this daily and get them great results. And I wouldn't even have the capacity to step into your life and walk in your shoes right now. And he was like, he was so sweet. He's like, oh, I really appreciate you saying that. He's like, because man, like things some days just feel so hard. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't, even with all the tools I have. Now, could I eventually grow into that? Of course. But like right now, even as the burnout and nervous system and capacity expert, could I step into your shoes right now and have the capacity to handle it? No. Could I do it and struggle? Probably. But like the reason I don't have the capacity is because I don't have the experiences that he has. I'm not married. I'm in a great relationship, but marriage is a different level. I don't have any children, so throwing me into 5 would be like, whoo, it's a doozy. You know what I mean? I wonder what the percentage is of people who have that many kids, because I think most people wouldn't be able to do that. And I don't know anything about being a president of a large engineering firm. I don't know anything about that. Do you know what I mean? I have skills in business, but I don't know about being that role. So like, yeah, I would be burnt out doing that too, right? All right, if you're a burnt out executive or high performer, chances are you're on a 3 to 4 month cycle of burnout, meaning the first few months you're high energy, productive, and making it happen. And then once that third or fourth month sets in, you're exhausted, irritable, snappy, and ready to give it all up. Now, there are 2 main reasons you get stuck in this cycle that no one talks about when it comes to stress management information out there. So I've put this together in a short video called The Real Reason You're Burnt Out. I put it in the show note links, so take the 12 minutes to watch this video and let this be the first step to you getting off this hamster wheel of burnout. All right, guys, back to the episode. And my point is this, is that if you have anything in your heart that you want in life, maybe that's a certain position at a company, maybe that's a larger paycheck, maybe that's a certain business, maybe that's a loving relationship, or a bigger house, whatever. If there's anything you want in life and you don't have it yet, it's because it's a capacity issue. It's not because it's a skill set or a mindset issue. It's capacity. And the reason I say that is because if you fix your capacity issue, the other issues fall into place or they dissolve themselves, right? If your capacity can handle that, the mindset gets corrected, the opportunities start to come your way, your belief changes, like the skills get acquired. Like if you have the capacity to handle it, then all those things get sorted out. Okay. And the good thing is we can expand our capacity. This is something you can do and you have control over. But it takes the right strategy and it also takes you committing to wanting more for yourself, right? So how do we expand our capacity? How do we do that, right? And the simplest way is you just have to start doing it. You have to start taking steps in the direction of whatever your goal is, right? And as you do that, your capacity is going to expand, right? Everything is uncomfortable till it's not. And the more reps you get in, the more repetition, the more at bats you take, the easier something's going to be, right? But here's the missing ingredient in that is that if you don't take the time to regulate through your nervous system as you're expanding your capacity, you will pay for it in the long term. And I am a prime example of that. Okay. If I look at my last career, I was there for 9 years. I could do the job with my eyes closed by the end of it. Like I really could. I've seen every problem. I've been in every situation. Again, I was there for 9 years. I could do it with my eyes closed. So I had built up the capacity to do the job through repetition and through action, of course. But I paid for it on the back end. My sleep was terrible. I maybe got 3 nights a week of a full night's sleep. I had digestion issues. I threw up all the time. I was irritable. I was snappy. I had brain fog. Like I was paying for it on the back end. And that's because I pushed my capacity without regulating my nervous system in the process to realize that it was safe for me to do this. Okay. And I know even that word safety is like confusing for people, but we're going to get into that as well too. So my point is this is high level, yes, you have to do. You have to step into action and you have to take steps towards what you want. But there's a way more effective way you can do that so that you don't have to neglect your needs or burn out or become resentful or disgruntled in the process. And I'm going to go through that with you now. Okay. So we're going to use an example of what to kind of lead you through this process, but this applies to anything. Again, this can apply to dating. If you now want to attract the right partner in your life, this can apply to building a business. It can apply to anything. You can take the same process. Okay. And so I call this cycle of growth. This is something I work through with my clients, but it's also just essentially exposure therapy, which you may have heard about before. Lots of nervous system experts will talk about this. But essentially, it's a cycle that you want to use anytime you want to grow. And you can use it in small systems. You can use it in big or small settings or big settings. But the point is, this is the pattern that you want to go through. It's a skill. So let's say the example is you want to get better at asking for help at work or delegating. Okay. And so when you think about asking for help or getting someone to do something for you, even if it's their job, like I have lots of clients like this who are like the leaders of teams and they're like, I feel bad asking people to do this. Meanwhile, they're like doing a whole bunch of things that actually are not what they should be focusing on. You know what I mean? Business owners are definitely guilty of this. And I get it. It's always coming from a good place. But there are them jobs and then there are jobs for their team. And even if it's a job for their team that is very obvious, they still struggle to delegate and ask for help. So let's use that example. So you have a assignment that you need done and you want to ask someone, but again, the minute you think about it, you go, oh, but everyone's so busy and I don't want to act like I feel bad or guilty if I ask them to do it and I can just handle it. So I should. And what if no one responds right away? And then I'm going to, all these things cycle in our head. So first, you need to identify exactly in your body what's happening when that trigger comes up. So the thought of asking someone for help gives me a tight chest. It makes my palms a little bit sweaty. My thoughts start to race, and I often get a pit in my stomach. Those are my symptoms. Okay. Yours might be a little bit different. But the first thing is you need to get really clear on what's happening in your body when that trigger comes up. Okay. Now, the second thing you have to do is now you have to go regulate through it. Okay. So what's happening is when you get put into that state, that tizzy of like, oh my God, I feel so bad asking for help. Your body's essentially going into a dysregulated state, which is survival mode. Okay. Your nervous system's getting dysregulated. And for background context, like if this example speaks to you and this is how you react in these situations, it's probably because you were never able to ask for help as a kid. Asking for help or speaking up for your needs feels very uncomfortable and foreign to you. And so you're probably getting anxious when that happens, or you try and downplay that you need anything because that's how you had to survive as a kid, was just by kind of keeping your mouth shut and making everyone else happy instead of tending to what your needs were. Okay. Or even voicing that you had a need. Right. So now as an adult, that same survival strategy transfers forward. And so we need to first identify that and know that the nervous system feels dysregulated because asking for help is a threat to your survival or a threat to receiving love or connection. There's a fear of judgment. There's a fear of criticism, which the nervous system, it doesn't necessarily understand what those nuanced things are. It just understands that, hey, this makes me feel unsafe, quote unquote, even though it's not a real, you're not actually in danger and a bear's not chasing you, but it's a emotional and psychological threat on your body. So when these tight chests and this pit in my stomach and these sweaty palms and these racing thoughts start to come up, I know my body's preparing for danger and it's in survival mode. Okay. So once I identify that, I need to regulate first. So before I go to ask for help, I'm going to take a moment to regulate. And what I'm doing is I'm telling my body, hey, you're okay. There's no bear chasing you. Nothing's coming down that's going to eat you or kill you or threaten your livelihood. You're okay. When I take that moment to regulate, I'm bringing my body now back into balance. And so it goes, okay, I'm actually like safe and I can be present. And then this is where the things in your body that help you grow, like your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that helps you critically think and problem solve and think big picture, they come back online. You can let your shoulders down. Your energy feels different. So the body goes, okay, I'm not actually in danger. So now I can go back to this balanced state. Okay. Once you've gone into this balanced state, this is when you're now going to actually do the thing that scared you when you first thought about it. Right. So now I'm going to go up to Sally and I'm going to say, hey, Sally, I actually really need this done by Friday. Could you please take this on? Okay. So now I'm going to actually go do the very thing that I'm scared of. Okay. But because I took the time to regulate first, I'm not now getting stuck in fight or flight or survival, burning a bunch of energy in the background out of fear of asking Sally to complete this project. Okay. Because I took the time to regulate first, I've now realigned my energy to not be wasting it and burning it in the background. So when I go to do this, my nervous system knows that it's actually not scary to ask Sally for help. Okay. Now, the first time you do this, I'm not saying that you're not going to feel anything at all, but it's going to take down the pressure and the tension in the body. Okay. You go ask Sally for help. And hopefully Sally's like, okay, cool. Maybe she's not. Again, we can't control that. But regardless, because you cued your body that you're safe, it's not going to have such a dramatic impact on you, whatever she says, because the body knows I'm not actually in danger. So whatever Sally says back to me, yes, no, indifferent, doesn't really mean as much because I know that I'm safe in this moment because my nervous system is regulated. If you go into that situation and you ask her and you didn't take the time to regulate first, it's going to feel like, oh, I'm such an idiot. How could I ask her that? Of course I shouldn't. Like all the doom and gloom is going to wash over you because again, your body thinks that it wasn't safe. So we go ask Sally. She says her answer, whatever the case is. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be an okay answer. And then when you come back, you might be a little bit dysregulated. But what you've done is, again, you've now had some exposure therapy where you stepped out and you asked for help. It wasn't so scary. So you got your rep in, like we talked about at the beginning. You got your rep in. And now what you're going to do is you're going to regulate one more time to, again, just get the body back into balance if it needs it. But what you've done is you've exposed your body to growth, right? To expanding your capacity in a way that's not killing you on the back end, like I talked about earlier, right? You've done it in a way where you haven't wasted all this energy and these resources. You've closed the extra tabs in the background that don't need to be open, and your body is still getting the exposure that it needs to be like, okay, so I asked for help and it was actually okay. I can do it again, and I can do it again, and I can do it again. And because you're using this cycle of growth and this exposure therapy and regulating every time you go through it, your ability to expand your capacity and asking for help and delegating is going to exponentially grow way faster, because every time you're telling your body, hey, you're safe, hey, you're safe. And it's showing that these experiences are actually good for me to ask people for help, to let them know I actually need some support, to delegate. It's knowing that this is now a good thing for my body, and therefore now you have a new belief system of what asking for help and delegating actually is. Now you don't look at it as, oh, I'm weak and I should be able to do it on my own and this is a sign of weakness. Now you look at it as like, yeah, now I'm a great leader who's able to grow the business and grow the team and help empower people with these things that I'm asking them to do. See the difference, right? So the missing piece that everyone's always talking about is like, yes, you do have to step into action. Yes, you have to do these things, but if you regulate your nervous system in the process, man, is it going to make such a difference on your body and your longevity and your sustainability, right? I burnt out of in my last career because I wasn't regulating in the process. Yes, I expanded my capacity, but not in a sustainable way, right? This is how you do it in a way where it's sustainable and that you can actually grow with the job, with the position, with whatever your dream is, with the relationship in a way that feels healthy and secure and sustainable. Okay. I'll use another example of like I'll use my relationship as an example. I started this call by saying I'm in one of the healthiest relationships I've ever, not one of the healthy. It is the healthiest relationship I've ever been in, and he is incredible. And again, I wouldn't have had the capacity before to be in a relationship like this, because so for me, if anyone knows anything about attachment styles, I have more anxious tendencies. Okay. So that means when anything kind of gets worked up, I get really anxious. And at the core of it is I have an abandonment wound, right? I'm scared someone's going to abandon me. And so what has happened over the years in my relationships is I have always abandoned myself and always tried to be the best girlfriend or whatever the case is for everybody else, but completely neglect myself in the process. Okay. And what would happen is I would never speak up for my needs. When something bothered me, when I needed some support, I would never ask for it, because as a child, that wasn't something I was really taught to do or thought was safe to do. I never really voiced what I needed. We were always kind of taught to work hard and just show up, make things happen, which I'm very grateful for that as well too. But speaking up my needs wasn't something that was a part of my survival strategy. So as an adult in my relationships, I did the same thing. I would never speak up my needs. And once I realized that this was the issue, I had to clock the fact that I didn't have the capacity to speak my needs. Even though I consciously thought I was doing it, I didn't have the capacity, because anything that came remotely close to speaking up for what I wanted, I would always have to like I would go back and forth in my head as to why I probably didn't need to say it, right? And I'll even use an example of something that just happened a couple weeks ago, okay? I was staying out at my boyfriend's house and we were sleeping, and we don't sleep with our phones in the bedroom, and he had gotten up really early and had grabbed his phone to check something. He was in the middle of a really big deal, and he had brought the phone back to the bed, and that wasn't a big like not a big deal to me because it was like 6 o'clock already, so we were about to get up, but I wasn't fully up yet. And we ended up sleeping in a little bit because we don't set alarms. And then his phone rang, and it was a client. And instinctually, he took it because he looked at the time. He's like, "Oh my god!" Like it was the weekend, by the way. This sounds like we have really healthy work habits, but trust me, we do. um, but so he took the call while he was laying next to me in bed. Okay, a vulnerable moment. Hopefully, he doesn't get mad I share this story. Anyways, um, so he answered the call, he went out of the room and finished his call out there, and everything was fine. But I'll be honest, um, I was uncomfortable with that the fact that that happened. I felt really disrupted. I needed more sleep, and I was bothered by it. And I was bothered by the fact that, I have worked so hard to have really healthy habits around that with myself. And I don't put that stuff on him. I want him to figure that out for himself as well too. But for me, I was just like, damn, that did not feel good. Now, from that time, I now started negotiating with myself in my head as to whether I should say something or not. Okay. And guys, this is just over a phone call, not even anything bad. Like, yeah, okay, maybe don't answer in the bedroom, but like, it's not like anything like super traumatic happened. It was a phone call. You know what I mean? And I sat there for 30 minutes in the bedroom by myself, going back and forth within my head as to whether I should say something or not. Oh, it's not a big deal. Are you going to sound not supportive? This is a really big thing for him. Like, just don't say anything. He's doing the best he can. Like, is it worth causing a gripe in the relationship? Like, is it worth you even saying anything? You can just get over it. It's not going to bother you in a day. Like, this is what's happening in my head. Okay, I'm negotiating with myself because to me, saying what I need in a relationship has always been really hard. I've gotten better at it, but it's still uncomfortable for me. And so finally he came into the room, and he knew something was bothering me, and he sat down and he goes, "Okay, let's talk. What's going on?" And I immediately start crying. And I'm like, "I'm so happy for you and all the things, I'm bawling. I'm like, "I'm so happy for you and all the things that you have going on." I said, "But, when you took that call this morning, it really disrupted my sleep and kind of startled me, and it didn't make me feel good, and so I just explained it, and I said, I've worked really hard to like have good boundaries for myself around my business and my sleep and all these things. And so, it was really triggering for me to take that call." And immediately he was like, "I'm so glad you told me. I'm so sorry. You're absolutely right. I should have just let it ring, and then I could have called her back when I got out of the room." And he's like, "I'm so happy you brought this up. I'll make sure it never happens again." And he was so gracious and so loving, and I'm still there like, "Okay, thank you." Like crying, guys, like ugly crying. And I was able to say to him though, like, "My tears are not because of you and because you really upset me. My tears are coming from the fact that my nervous system is still adjusting to speaking up for myself. It's a capacity issue. It's not a skill issue. It's not that I don't know how to say those words. I can do it in a business setting, no problem. But a personal relationship, speaking up for myself, that is still slightly dysregulating to me." So I cried. And by the way, guys, crying is just a response for your nervous system to regulate. It doesn't mean anything bad. Like, if you're crying, it's for a reason. And in that case, I wanted to make sure I communicated with him that I'm not crying because I'm that upset by what he did or that there's a issue with our relationship. I'm crying because it's still very uncomfortable for me to speak my needs. However, every time I do that, I am now telling my nervous system, "Hey, you can do it and it's safe." Because what did I do after? I regulated. I went for a walk. I got out in the sun, and everything was fine. It didn't eat up my capacity. And I'm so happy I did that because, again, it's getting my reps in of building my capacity in a relationship. Now, what I will say is, using that example versus the one I used earlier about asking Sally for help, with the it's ideal if you can regulate before you go into something uncomfortable where you're expanding, but sometimes you don't know. right? So for instance, in my situation, I didn't know that was going to happen. So I didn't regulate first, right? So I made sure to regulate after. But if you're walking into a situation where you know you're going to do something that's uncomfortable for you, it's best to do it before and after. It's just double ending it and just giving your nervous system the best success at being able to regulate and grow, without burning out on the backside, right? But the point is anytime you add regulating your nervous system into this, and then you go ahead and take a step into something that's a little bit more uncomfortable, you're expanding your capacity. And then this is when things start to shift and change. And again, like for me, I don't think I would be able to have him as a partner now if I hadn't already been taking steps into getting better at this. Like this example, guys, a year ago, I probably would have never gotten out of the negotiation phase with myself in my head. I would have kept it in. I wouldn't have said anything, and I would have went on to something else, and I would have somewhat resented him after the fact or whatever. I wouldn't have done it. But now the reason I think I can have like I've attracted him into my life in this relationship is because I build up the capacity to have these skills and be more secure with him, right? And it's the same with anything else. Like I have one client I can think of specifically who, uh, you know, finances have kind of always been a thing in the case that she had this one client that was a part-time but full-time. Like she wasn't on so she does contract work. Okay. So her the way her business is built is she's taking on contracts here and there. And she had this one client that she had taken on year over year. So they were just like she's almost like an employee of theirs. And she didn't love the work, and they weren't a client that was really in alignment with her, but they were paying a large part of her bills. And I get it. And so as we were working together, she was like, oh, like they just, it's draining me having to show up for them. But it's like they pay, she's a single mom. She's like they cover a lot of my expenses for me. So it's like, but I don't really want to work with them anymore. And so, as we went through this process of expanding her nervous system and her capacity, we got her to a point where she not only was able to say goodbye to them, because again, you got to say goodbye to the things that you don't want to make room for the things that you do. So not only did she build up her capacity to get out of scarcity mode and be like, no, I know I don't, I something else will come down the line if I let them go. But after that, not long after that, she booked one contract, which was a matter of days, that covered over half of what they are paying her for the year. Okay. So what she was doing for a year's worth of work in just one contract, she made over half of that. But that's because her nervous system had expanded the capacity to welcome in the opportunity. Okay. And I always tell people, mindset can help you see the opportunity. Nervous system capacity determines whether you can capitalize it or not. And she was in a position now where she could capitalize on it, right? But this is why expanding your capacity in your nervous system is so important. And this is also why I talk about stress management and optimization so much, right? Because when you get better at processing your stress, managing your stress, optimizing your stress, then you're able to do this more. Okay. You can't grow when you're in survival mode. You can, right? And survival mode isn't as dramatic as it sounds. It doesn't mean like, oh, I'm stuck on the street and I can't pay I don't have any food, like not that degree of survival, but survival mode where you're just living for the day. Like I can't see big picture. I can only see what's in front of me. Like I'm just trying to stay alive. Like that survival mode. When you're in that state, you can't grow. And when you can't grow, you can't expand your capacity, which means you can't welcome in new opportunities, new love, new abundance, new relationships, right? So the way you do that again is by exposing yourself, but doing it with the right strategy so you don't burn yourself out in the background. All right. So I'm going to tell you guys that I am feeling a lot better today than I have been in the last couple days because they were rough, but I'm on the come up. And it's only because I know how to get myself out of it. And so, if this is you and you're looking for more ways to do this, go check out my other content, go check out my Instagram, go check out my LinkedIn. If you're an executive or a high performance or, in sales and you're looking for someone to give you the right strategy to do this for your life right now, hit me up. This is what I'm here for. And take this as a sign that like life doesn't have to get stuck in what we think it is right now. It can get better. It always can get better. But it takes you making a choice to do something about it. I just put up a post on Instagram saying that burnout changed my life, and it did for the better because I actually chose to do something about it. All right, guys, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast. If you got something out of this episode, I would ask that you please go subscribe and leave the podcast a 5-star review so that it can help find its way to other people who are having a hard time and need support. My mission in life is to help executives realize that you don't need to suffer in silence while still performing at a high level. I want to help free people of the heavy pressure they carry on a day-to-day basis, and having more people listen to this podcast will do just that. So wherever you listen to this, please go leave it a 5-star review, hit subscribe so you never miss another episode, and we'll see you in the next one.